Amar Nag Kinnar Risipala. Amar Nag Kinnar Risipala. God, Nagas, Kindras, and the guardian of the eight quarters flocked to the Chitrakuta on that occasion. Shri Ram made obeisance to them all, and the gods were glad to obtain the reward of their eyes. Raining flower, the heavenly host exclaimed, Lord, we feel secure today. With great supplication, they described their terrible woes and returned joyfully to their several abodes. Hermits streamed in as they heard of the news of the Shri Rama, the lighter of the Raghu, had taken up his abode at Chitrakuta. The moon of the solar rays fell protest when he saw the holy company coming with a cheerful countenance. The hermit pressed Shri Rama, the chief of Raghuline, to their bosoms and invoked their blessing on him just in order to see them come true. As they gazed on the beauty of Sita, Lakshmana, Sumindra's sons, and the Rama, they accounted all their spiritual practice fully rewarded. After paying them due honor, the Lord dismissed the holy throng and they practiced yoga, contemplation, japa, muttering of prayers and the austerities and performed sacrifices unmolested in their own retreat. Retreat means retreat. Retreat means withdraw from enemy force as a result of their superior power or after a defeat. Withdraw from enemy force. And the kolas and be the gods disuse. They felt as delighted as though the nine heavenly treasures of the Kubera had found their ways to their own house. With cups of leaf full of bulbs, roots, and fruits, they sailed forth as pauper to gather gold as spoils. Such of them as they as had already seen the two brothers were cautions about them by others who proceeded along the same road, describing and hearing of the Sri Rama's beauty. They all came and beheld the Lord of Raghu, placing their offering before the Lord. They greeted him and regarded him with deep affection. They stood here and there as so many painted figures, sitting all over with tears streaming from their eyes. Sri Rama perceived that they were all overwhelmed with emotions and addressing kind words to them, they treated them all with honors, while they in their turn greeted the Lord again and again, and with joint palm spoke to him in the polite terms. Having seen your feet, O Lord, we all feel secure now. Our good luck is responsible for your visit to this place, O Lord of Ayodhya. Blessed is the land, forest, path, and hills where you have planted your food, my Lord. Fortunate are the birds and the beasts of the forest, whose life has been prolonged by your sight, and lucky are we all, along with our family, in that we have been able to feast our eyes on your beauty. You have chosen an excellent spot whereon to take up your abode. You will be comfortable here during all seasons. We will render all sorts of services to you, keeping away elephants and the lions, serpents and the tigers. The dearly forest, hills, caves, and the ravines have all been explored by us foot by foot. O Lord, we will take you for the hunting to the different hunts to the Thames and will show you the lake and springs and other reservoir of the water. We and our people are your servants. Therefore, do not hesitate to command us, O Lord. The same gracious Lord whom Vedic texts fail to describe and the mind of the hermits cannot reach. Listen to the words of the Bhilas, even as a father listens to the words of his children's. Love alone attracts Sri Rama. Let those who are curious take note of it. Sri Rama then gratified all the foresters by addressing to them gentle words, sweetened by love. Dismissed by him, they bowed their head to him and departed, and discussing the virtues of the Lord, they returned to their respective homes. In this way, Sita and the two brothers lived in the forest, delighting the gods and hermit. Even since the Lord of the Raghus came and took up his abode there, his forest became a fountain of blessings. Trees of the various kind, blossoms, and the bold fruits and lovely creepers that coiled about them formed an excellent canopy. They were all naturally beautiful like the trees of the heaven. It seemed as if the latter had abandoned the celestial grooves and migrated to the spots. A string of bees made an exceedingly sweet humming sounds and delightful breeze breathed soft, cool, and fragrant. The blue jay, cuckoo, parrots, chatka, chakravakas, chakoras, and other birds delighted to hear and ravish the soul with their varied notes. Elephants, lions, monkeys, boars, and deers all sported together free from enmity. Herds of deers were enraptured when they beheld the beauty of the Sri Ramas roaming about it in search of the prey. All the forests of the good existing in the universe were filled with envy at the sight of the Sri Rama's forest. The heavenly river Ganga, Saraswati, and sun-born Yamuna, Narmada, the daughter of the Mount Makela, the blessed Godavari, and the various other lakes seas, streams, and rivers all extol the Mandakini, the eastern and the western hills from and behind which the sun is believed to emerge and disappears every morning and evening. Mount Kailasha, the abode of Lord Shiva, Mandara, Meru, all abode of gods, and the mountains like the Himalayas all sing praises of the Chitrakuta. Glad was the deity presiding over the Vindhyas range, whose delight was more than his heart could contain. To think that he had won such great renown without much exertion. Blessed and full of merits are all the birds and the deer, creepers, trees, and the various species of the hermitage of Chitrakoot. So declare the gods day and night. Having beheld the chief of a good line, those who had eyes attained the end of their life and were rid of the sorrow, whereas inanimated objects rejoice at the touch of the very dust of his feet and become eligible for attaining the highest estate blessedness. The forest and hill where that ocean of the bliss Shri Rama took up his abode were naturally loveliest species in the holiest of the holy. How could it be possible to glorify them? The exquisite beauty of the forest where Sita, Lakshmana, and Shri Rama came and the settles, taking leave of the ocean of the milk and bidding adieu to the Ayodhya could not be described even by the 100,000 Sheshas, each with 1,000 pairs of the tongues. How then can I describe it at some length, and more than a tortoise living in the puddle can lift Mount Mandara? Lakshmana waited upon the Shri Rama's thoughts, waited upon Shri thoughts, words, and deed, and amiability and the devotion more than one could tell. Gazing on the feet of the Sita and Rama every moment and the conscious of their love for him, Lakshmana never recalled even in a dream his younger brother Shatrugna, father, mother, or even his home. In Shri Rama's company, Sita lived a happy life, forgetting her oath to her town, Ayodhya family, and the home. Even watching the moon-like face of her beloved Lord, she was extremely glad, like a young of the Chakora birds, finding her Lord's affection grow from day to day. She remained happy as a Chakravaka birds during the day. Her mind was so enormous of sheep that the forest appeared to her as dear as a thousand Ayodhyas. Dear was the hut of the leaves in the company of her most beloved Lord, while fawn and the birds constitutes her beloved family. The holy hermits appeared to her as her own father-in-law and their spouse and her mother-in-law, while her diet consisting of bulbs, roots, and fruits tasted like ambrosia. Shared with her spouse, even the lovely litter of the leaves delighted her as hundred of the Cupid's own beds. Can the charm of the senses enjoyment even enchant her whose very look confers the sovereignty of his sphere? Fixing their thoughts on Shri Rama, his devotees plunge the pleasure of sense as worth no more than a pieces of the straw. It is no wonder then the case of the Sita, Shri Rama beloved consort and the mother of the universe. The Lord of Raghu would do and say only that which would please the Sita and the Lakshmana. He would narrate old legends and the story to which Lakshmana and the Sita would listen with great delight. Every time Sri Rama thought of the Ayodhya, his eye filled with the tears. The gracious Lord becomes sad when he recalled his father and the mother, his family and the brother, and the particularly the affection, amiability, and devotion of the Bharata. But he recovered himself when he realized that the time was unpropitious. Perceiving that Sita and the Lakshmana felt distress even as a shadow of the man behaved just like him, and he saw the condition of his beloved consort and his brother Lakshmana, the self-possessed and the compassionate Rama, the delighter of the Raghu and the soother of his devotee. His heart began to narrate some secret legends. Hearing with Lakshmana and the Sita felt relieved. Accompanied by the Lakshmana and Sita, Shri Rama shone in his hut of the leaves, even as Andhra, who dwell in Amravati with his spouse Sachi and his sons Jayanta. The Lord looked after Sita and the Lakshmana in the same way as the eyelid protects the eyeballs, while Lakshmana in his turn waited upon Sita and Shri Rama, the hero of Raghu race. Just as a fool who identifies himself with his body tends his own body, in this way the Lord, who was friendly to birds and fond as to the gods and ascetics, lived happily in the forest. Thus have I told the delightful story of Shri Rama's journey to the woods. Now hear how Sumantra reached Ayodhya. When the Nishada chief returned after escorting the Lord, he saw the minister Sumantra with the carrot. The minister was distressed to see the Nishada chief. Words fail to describe the agony which he felt at the moment. Crying out Rama, Rama, Sita, Lakshmana, he, Sumantra, dropped off the ground utterly helpless. While the horse kept looking on the south and neighed, they were as restless as the birds shone on their wings. They would neither eat grass nor drink water, while the eyes kept shedding tears, and the whole party of Nishada was distressed to see the horse of the Shri Rama, the chief of the Raghu line. Then recovering himself, the Nishada said, Sumantra ceased sorrowing now. You are a man of the wisdom and a knower of the highest truth. Therefore, compose yourself, realizing that fate is unpropitious to you. Narrating various legends in the soft accent, he took him by the force and seated him in the carriage. But overpowered by the grief, he could not derive the carrot. The agony of the separation from Rama, the chief of Raghuline, was severe in his heart. The horse would not move along the road. They were getting fidgetly. It seems as if the wild animal has been caught and put in harness. They could topple down and turn to look behind, torn away from the Rama in the smarting with deep anguish. If anyone mentioned in the same of the Rama, Lakshmana or Sita, Lakshmana's daughter, they would start neighing and regard him with love. How could anyone describe the anguish of separation of the horse where they were as restless as a snake robbed of its gem? Then Nishada was overcome with grief as he beheld the minister and his horse. He then called 4 trusted grooms and sent them with the carrot Sumantra. Seeing of the carrot, Goha returns. The agony of his separation falls too deep towards, and the Nishada drove of the Ayodhya plunged in sorrow every moment. Agitated and stricken with grief, Sumantra lamented, assured is life without the hero of the Raghuras. This rash body will not survive in the long run. But what a pity it did not earn fame by persisting at the time of the parting from the hero of the Raghuras. Life has become a sink of infamy and sin. I wonder what prevents it from departing, as this wild soul has missed its chance. Oh, that my heart does not break in twain even now. Wrinkling his head and the beating his head, he rued his lot like a miser who has lost his hoards of the riches. It seemed as if, after assuming the role of and posting is as an eminent hero, the great warrior had taken to flight. Mr. gave himself up to grief like a discreet Brahman of the noble descent, who thought well versed in the Vedas and esteemed by the virtuous, has been deluded into drinking. The minister felt in his heart agony as terrible as that of virtuous and the discreet lady of the high birth who is devoted to her lord in thoughts, words, and deed, and who is compelled by evil destiny to live apart from her husband. His eyes were full of tears and lacking in visions. His ear deaf and his mind was agitated and confused. Nay, his lips were getting dry and his tongue had cleaved to the palate. Yet his life breath did not depart, the term of the exile serving as a door to prevent his departure from his heart. He had turned pale and repealed the sight as he had murdered his own father and mother. Great was the despondency which preyed upon his mind as a result of the loss he had just suffered. He looked like a sinner mourning while on the way to the abode of the dead. What failed him, and he lamented within himself, what shall I see on reaching Ayodhya? Whosoever shall find the carrot devoid of Rama will shun my sight. When the agitated citizens run to make inquiries of me, I shall answer them all with a heavy loads on my heart. The helpless and afflicted mother cautions me, good God, what shall I say to them? When Lakshmana's mother Sumitra put questions to me, what glad tidings shall I convey to her? And when Rama's mother Kaushalya come running like a cow that has recently born a calf and has her thought fixed on it, the only answer I can make to her queries will be Rama, Lakshmana and Sita, Vidya's daughter, have left for the woods. Whoever cautioned me must be answered. This is the treat I shall have on reaching Ayodhya again, when the king who is oppressed by grief and whose life hangs on the Ramas put questions to me. With what face shall I tell him the reply that having safely escorted the prince I have come back? The moment he heard the news of the Lakshmana, Sita and Rama, king will drop his body like a piece of straw. The swampy ground of my heart, like a swamu ground, did not crack even through the motion in the shape of my most beloved Shri Rama has left. From this I concluded this very frame God has endowed me with body fit for suffering the torture of the hell. While Sumantra was thus lamenting on the way, his carrots presently reached the bank of the Tamsa river. He politely dismissed the Nishada, who felt his feet and returned with a heart stricken with grief. The minister hesitated to enter the city as if he had murdered his own preceptor, killed a Brahman or butchered a cow. He passed the day sitting under the tree, and found his opportunity only when it was dusk. He entered Ayodhya in the dark and slunk into the palace, leaving the carrot at the gate. All who heard the news rode to the entrance of the royal palace to see the carrot. When they recognized the carrot and found the horse restless with their body wasting away, the hail in the sun, the citizens, both man and the woman, were so distressed as fish when the water runs short. The moment they heard the minister's arrival, the whole Gynecum was restless to him. The palace looked as dreary as though it were a abode of spirits. In deep agony, all the queen cautioned him, but no reply came from him. His voice failed him, his ears could not hear, nor could his eyes see. He asked for whomsoever he met, tell me, where is the king? Seeing his confusion, the maid-servant conducted him to Kaushalya's apartment. Arriving there, Sumantra found the king as pale and lustreless as the moon without nectar, without a seat, couch, or ornaments. He lay on the ground in the most wretched condition. Having a sight, he lamented even as Yayati when he had fallen from the abode of the god. With his heart bursting with grief, even every moment he looked like somebody who had dropped from the heaven on account of his having been slain. The great lover of the Rama cried Rama Rama, and again Rama, Lakshmana and Sita. The ministers on seeing the kings exclaimed celebratory words Jaya Jiva and made obeisance to him by telling protest on the ground. The moment he heard this, the king rose in bewilderment and said, tell me, Sumantra, where is Rama? The king pressed Sumantra to his bosom as if a drawing man had laid hold of some support. Seating him affectionately by his sides and with his eyes full of tears, the king asked him, apprise me of Rama's welfare, O loving friend. Where are Rama, the lord of the Raghu, Lakshmana and Vya's daughter Sita? Have you brought them back or have they left from the woods? At these words, tears rushed to the minister's eyes. Overwhelmed with grief, the king asked again, tell me the news about Sita, Rama and Lakshmana, recalling again and again Shri Rama's beauty, virtues, amiability and the temperament. The king sorrowed within himself, proclaiming my intentions to install him as regent. I exiled him to the woods, but the news neither delighted his soul nor grieved it. But my life did not depart, even though I had to part from such a son who can be such a great sinner as I am. Take me, my friend, to the place where Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana are. If not, I sincerely tell you, my life is going to depart very soon. Again and again, the king asked the minister, communicate to me the news of my most beloved son. Quickly, I contrive, my friends, a means whereby you may be able to bring before my eyes Rama, Lakshmana, Sita. Recovering himself, the minister gently replied, your majesty is learned and wise. May you are leader of the brave and the courageous, my lord, and have always attended assemblies of the holy men. Birth and death, all painful and the pleasurable experience, loss and gain, union with and separation from friends, all these, my lord, take place under the unalterable law of time and destiny, like the succession of night and day. Fool rejoice to prosperity and more than the adversity, while the wise account both alike. Therefore, exercising your mature judgment, take up courage and cease sorrowing, O friends of all. The first halt was made by the side of the Tamsa, and the next on the bank of the Calistri river Ganga. Having bathed and drunk water, Sita and the two brothers remained without food that day. Then the Shada showed great hospitality, and the party spent at night in the village of the Shangavarpura. At daybreak, they sent for the milk of the banyan tree, and the two brothers coiled up their matted hair in the shape of the crown. Then Rama's friend Guha called for the boat, and after helping Sita to board it, Sri Rama followed suit. Lakshmana placed on it in the orderly way the two bows and the quiver, and himself boarded the boat on receiving the Lord's commands. Seeing my distress, the hero of grace summoned up courage and addressed me in the sweet accents. Sire, convey my obeisance to dear fathers, and clasped his lotus feet again and again. Then, falling at his feet, submit to him thus: Father, be not worried on my account. By your grace and the goodwill, and as a reward of your meritorious acts, my journey to the sojourn in the woods will be happy and full of blessings. By your grace, dear Father, I shall have all sorts of the comforts on my journey. and having obeyed your command shall come back safe to behold your lotus feet once more. Nay, consoling all my mother's fall at the feet again and again, and with profuse entreaties made every fort to see that the Lord of Ayodhya, my father, passes his day happily. Clasping my preceptor's lotus feet again and again, give me my message. Pray so exhort the Lord of Ayodhya that he may no longer grieve on my account. Humbly approaching all the citizens and all my people, convey to them my submission. He alone is my friend in every way who ensures the king's happiness. Again, when Bharata comes, give him my message. Abandon not the path of restitude. Restitude means, what do you mean by the restitude? Restitude means morally correct behavior or thinking. Morally correct behavior and thinking is called restitude. Morally correct behavior and thinking is called the restitude. On assuming the office of the regent, cherish your subjects in thoughts, words, and deeds, and serve your mothers, treating them all alike. Again, brother, vindicate your brotherliness till the last day by serving our parents and the kinsmen. And last but not the least, to look after the king in such a way that he may never sorrow on my account. Her Lakshmana interposed some harsh word. Rama checked him and then entreated me, adjuring me by himself again and again, make no mention, dear father, to Lakshmana's childishness. Sending her greeting, Sita opened her lips to say something but was overwhelmed with emotion. Her voice failed, her eyes filled with tears, and thrill rained through her body. At this moment, in response to the hint from the chief of the Raghu, Shri Rama, the boatsman propelled the boats towards the opposite bank. So departed the crown of the Raghu race, while I stood looking on with a heavy load on my heart. How am I to disguise my own anguish in that I came back alive bearing Rama's message? At this stage, Sumantra's speech failed him. Overpowered as he was by the grief and remorse due to the separation from Shri Rama, no sooner had he heard the character's speech than the king dropped to the ground, his heart burning with deep anguish, his mind being unhinged by excessive infatuation. He tossed about like a fish that has been inebriated by suckling the form of the early rainwater. With his exor intoxicated to the fish, all the queens wailed and wept. How can the great misfortune be described? At the sound of their wails, sorrow itself was sorrowful, and endurance could not be endured. Either was a great tumblet at the sound of the outcry of the royal Gynecum. It seemed as if the cruel thunderbolt has fallen at the night on the large habitants of birds. The life breath of the king had now stuck to his throat. He felt uneasy like a serpent robbed of its gems. All his senses were blighted as a cluster of the lotuses in a lake that had been left without water. When Kaushalya saw the king withered and blasted, she concluded in her mind that the sun of the solar race was about to set. Summoning up courage, therefore, Shri Rama's mother spoke words appropriate to the occasions. Ponder in her heart, my lord, and reflect that separation from the Rama is a vast ocean. You are the husband and the Ayodhya are the bark which has been boarded by our dear at the dear ones. As a passenger, we can hope to reach a store only if you have patience. If not, the whole family will be drawn. If you take to heart this entreaty of mine, my beloved lord, we are sure to see Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita again. Hearing these soft words of his beloved being, the king opened his eyes and looked up like a lightning red fish that has been sprinkled with cold water. Recovering himself, the king got up and sat down. Tell me, Sumantra, where is my gracious Rama? Where is the Lakshmana? Where my loving Rama? Where is my beloved daughter-in-law Videhi? The restless monarch weighed in many ways. The night seemed to him like an age, and he felt as thought it would never end. He was remained of the blind hermit curse, and he narrated the whole story of Kaushalya. He was filled with agony as he related the circumstances. Fie on the hope of surviving without Rama. What shall I gain by perversing this body which has failed to keep my word of love? O delighter of Raghu, who are dear to me as life, already I have lived too long without you. Janka's daughter and Lakshmana, a chief of the Raghu line, who gladdened the loving heart of your father as a rain cloud delights the chatka birds. Crying Rama Rama and again Rama and yet again Rama Rama Rama, the king cast off his body in his agony of separation from the chief of the Raghu line and ascended to the abode of gods. It was King Dashrath who reaped the reward both of his life and death. His untarnished fame spread through a number of universes. As long as lived, he gazed on Shri Rama's moon-like countenance and brought glory to his death by making the separation from Shri Rama his excuse for it. Stricken with grief, all the queen wept and praised his comeliness of form, amiable manners, bodily might and majesty. Their narrative were varieties of ways, throwing themselves upon the ground again and again. Men servants and the maid servants alike wailed in anguish, and there was weeping in every house throughout the city. Today has set the sun of the solar rays, the perfection of the rightness, the repose of beauty and virtue. Everyone abused Kaki, who had robbed the world of its very eye. In this way, they waited till the close of the night, and all the great and the enlightened hermits arrived. Then the sage Vashishta narrated a number of legends befitting the occasion, and this dispersed the gloom they hung over them, all by the light of his wisdom. The Sikh caused a boat to be filled with the oil and had the king's body placed in it to guard against decomposition. He then summoned envoys and spoke to them thus: Run quickly and go to the Bharata, but break not the news about the king to anyone at any place. Approaching Bharata, tell him only this much: the preceptor has sent for you two brothers. Hearing the Sikh's orders, the courier rushed along with a speed that would put a excellent steed to shame. Ever since things begins to take a vicious turn in Ayodhya, evil omens occurs before Bharata. He saw fearful dream at night and walking intercal in all sort of the unpleasant speculation. He would perform the consecrations water over Bhagavan Shiva in various ways, and in walking the great Lord in his heart we gave back to him the welfare of his parents, family and half brothers. While Bharata was thus passing on the edge's time, the courier arrived, and hearing the Guru's commands, he proceeded with the invocation of the Lord Ganesha. Urging the horse to run the fast as the wind, he went on his journey, crossing difficult streams in the forest. There was such a great anxiety in his heart that nothing would please him. He thought to himself, "Would that I could fly home." Every moment hung heavy like and years. In this way, Bharata drew near to the city. Even when a circle to occur to him as he entered the city, crows called in the omnivorous way at untarnished place. Duncan the jackal gave a cry that forebode evil and which pierced Bharata's to the heart of his listen to it. Lake and river groves in the garden had lost their charm, while the city wore a particularly dismal look. Birds in the fawns, horse and the elephants were too rash to look at. Undone by the fell disease of separation from the Rama, the people of the city, both men and women, were extremely miserable, as though all of them had lost everything they had in their possession. His reason made him, but spoke not a word. They made obeisance and quietly passed on. Bharata too could not inquire after their welfare, his mind being oppressed with fear and grief. The bazaars in the street repealed the sight, as through a wide conflagration has to broken out the city or on all sides. Kaikeyi, who was the solar rays that the moon in the house, was rejoiced to hear her son approach, preparing lights for the waving round his head. She sprang up and ran glad at heart, and meeting him at the very door, conducted him into her apartment. Bharata saw his mother's that while the households were a rash appearance like a bed of lotuses blasted by the forest, Keke was unhappy as a Bila woman who had set a whole forest ablaze. Seeing her son smell late surely and the depressed in spirit, she asked him, "Is all well? Is my mother's house?" Bharata assured her and everything was well, and then inquired after the health and the welfare of his own family. "Tell me, where is my father, where all mothers, and where is my Sita? Where is Sita and my beloved brothers Shri Rama and Lakshmana?" On hearing her son's affectionate words, the sinful woman brought crocodile tears to her eyes and spoke for that pierced his ears and soul as so many shafts. "I have accomplished everything for you, my son, and poor Mantra has been of great help to me. Only God has mattered our plan a little before they could be completed. The king has departed to Indra's rise as soon as he heard this." Bharata was overcome with grief as an elephant who is terrified at the roar of the lion. Crying, "Father, father, my father," he fell to the ground, much agitated. "I could not see you before you left, nor did you, my father, entrust me to the care of the Sri Rama. Then correcting himself, he got up with some efforts and said, "Tell me, mother, the cause of my father's dismiss." Hearing the words of her son, she replied as one who had cut a vital part of the inserted poison into it. With a glad heart of the cruel and the wicked woman recounted from the very beginning all that she has done. Hearing of Shri Ram exiled to the forest, Bharata forget his father's death, and realizing in his heart that he was at the root of it, he remained mute and stupefied. Observing his son's distress, she comforted him like one who applied salt to a burn. "The king, my son, is not fit for lamentation. He not only reaped the rich harvest of merits and renown, but enjoyed life also. During his lifetime, he obtained all the rewards of human existence, and in the end, ascends to the abode of Indra, the lord of immortals. Pondering thus ceased sorrowing and ruled the kingdom with all its limbs, such as the army, the exchequer, the minister, and so on. The prince was utterly dismissed to hear these words, as though a feasting sore had been touched by a live coal. Recovering himself, he heaved a deep sigh and said, "O wicked woman, you have brought complete ruin to our family. If you bore such deep malice, why did you not kill me as soon as I was born? Cutting down the tree, you have watered a leaf, and you have drained the pond for keeping the fish alive. Claiming my descent from the sun god with King Dasharatha for my father and Rama and Lakshmana for my brother. I have had your mother for my mother. One is the powerless against providence. The moment, O malicious woman, you contrive this evil design in your mind, how is it your heart did not break into the pieces while asking for a boon? Did not your conscience pinch you? Your tongue did faster, nor did your mouth become free from the maggot. How did the king trust you? Surely God must have robbed him of his sense on the eve of his death. Even the Creator has not been able to know the working of the woman's heart, the repository of the all deceit, sin, and vice. Deceit, all deceit. Deceit means woman. Deceit means the action or practices of deceiving someone by concealing or mispresenting the truth. The action of practicing of deceiving someone by concealing or misrepresenting the truth is called the deception. Deception means the action or practice of deceiving someone by concealing or misrepresenting of the truth is called the misrepresentation of truth is called the deceit. Sin means, what do you mean by sin? Sin means an immortal act considered to be the against divine law. Immortal acts against the divine law is called the sin. Vice means acting or next in rank. Acting as a next in rank. Vice acting as a next in rank is called the vice. Vice means wise. Simple, amiable, and pious king. Simple, amiable, and the pious king. Uh, Pious as the king was, how could he know the nature of the woman? What living creature is there in this world to whom the Lord of Raghu is not dear as life itself? Yet even the Rama appeared to you as a great enemy. Tell me the truth. Therefore, to what species do you belong? Whatever you may be, you had better bed up your face with things and leaving my presence, remove to some place out of my sight. Nay, God has created me out of bone, Kaikeyi hostile to the Rama who is there, so sinful as myself. In vain, therefore, do I taunt you. And Shatrugna here, the mother Kaikeyi's weakness, he burns all over with the rage, but there was no help. That very moment come to the humpback Mantra, clad in the variety of rich costumes and adorned with the various ornaments. The very sight of that woman filled Lakshmana's younger brother with anger as though clarified butter had been poured into the fire. Springing toward, he kicked her with such steady aim at the hump that she fell flat on her face and screamed aloud. Her hump was smashed, her head split, and her teeth broken, and her mouth emitted blood. Oh my God, what harm have I done? Surely this is an ill recompense of my services. Hearing this, his eagle wild from the head to foot, Shatrugna, the slayer of the foe, seized her by the hair on her head and began to drag her till the merciful Bharta recused her. The two brothers then called on the mother Kaushalya. In sordid attire, pale, agitated, and oppressed with woe, and with a wasted frame, she looked like a lovely celestial creature of the gold, blasted by frost in the forest. When Mother Kaushalya saw Bharta, she sprang up and ran to meet him, but she felt giddy and dropped unconscious on the ground. Bharta was deeply moved to see her plight and threw himself at her feet, forgetting the condition of his own body. Mother, show me my father. Where is the Sita? And the two brothers say, Shri Ram and Lakshmana. Why was Kaikeyi born into this world at all? And is born, why did she not remain barren instead of bearing me? A plot of my family, a very sink of infamy, and the enemy of the near and the dear one, who in these three spheres so wretched as I, on whose account, my mother, you have been reduced to such a plight. My father is a heaven, Shri Rama, the chief of the Ragulite in his wood. It is who, like a shooting star, am responsible for the whole trouble. Woe be to me, who have proved to be for my family a very fine among the bamboos and the victim of a terrible agony, suffering and anxious. On hearing Bharta's tender words, Kaushalya rose with a renewed effort and lifting him, clasped him to his bosom, while tears streamed from her eyes. Clueless by nature, Mother Kaushalya pressed him to her bosom with utmost affection, and though Sri Rama himself said to come back, she then embraced Lakshmana's younger brother Shatrugna, and her heart was full of grief and love. Everyone who saw her loving disposition said, Rama's brother, and she is no wonder she should be so loving. The mothers seated Bharta in her laps and weeping away his tears spoke to him the soothing words, I adjure you, my child, to compose yourself even now, knowing this to the unpropitious time, sorrow no more. Take no not to the heart the loss we have sustained, and feel no remorse of it, remembering that the course of the time and the fate is unalterable. Do not blame anyone, my son. It is the providence that has turned hostile to me in every way, and when he makes me survive even under such a trying circumstances, who know what may be his pleasure and regard to me even now. At his father's behest, a child, the hero of Raghuline, discarded his ornaments and princely appearance, put on the hermit dress consisting of bark of the tree without either sorrow of execution. With the cheerful countenance and without either joy or anger, he comforted all the everyone and proceeded to the forest. Hearing the Sita followed him and could not stay, devoted as she was to the Rama's feet. Lakshmana also, when he heard this, sprang up and accompanied them. He would not be left behind, even though the Lord of Raghu tried his best to detain him. The Lord of Raghu then bowed his head to all and departed with the Sita and his younger brother Lakshmana. So Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita left for the woods, whereas I neither accompanied them nor sent my soul after them, leaving my body here. All this happened before these eyes, and yet his wretched soul did not take leave of the body. I am not ashamed of my love to think that a son like Rama should have a mother like me. The king knew well how to live and how to die, whereas my heart is 100 times harder than Adman. Hearing Kaushalya's word, Bharta and the whole Gynecum wailed in distress. The king's palace seems the very abode of the sorrow. Much agitated, the two brothers Bharta and Shatrugna loudly lamentated, and Kaushalya clasped them to her bosom. She comforted Bharta in many ways and tendered words of the wisdom to him. Bharta too in his turn consoled all his mothers, narrating legends from the Puranas and the Vedas, joining both his palms. She addressed them in clueless, innocent, simple and charming words. The sin attaching to the murder of one's mother's father and son, and to the act of setting fire in the copen of the village of the Brahmins, and those incurred by slaying a woman or child, and the administrating poison to their friends or a monarch, all the major and the minor sins in thoughts, words, or deeds that have been enumerated by the seers. Let all such sins be mine. If my mother, this plot has my concurrence. My providence award me the fate of those who, forsaking the feet of Sri Hari and Lord Shiva, worship frightful ghosts. If mother, I have complicity in this plot. If mother, all this has my approval, let me share the terrible fate of those who sell the Vedas, exploit their piety, are given to backbiting, expose other sins, who are deceitful, wicked, quarrelsome, and the irascible, who revile the Vedas and hostile to the word, who are greedy and lecherous and behave as a rapacious do. Behave as a rapacious do. Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram. Precious do Shri Ram, Shri Ram. Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram. Shri Ram, 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 Shri Ram. Shri Ram, Shri Ram. When both the he addressed in blue lesson was simple and sharp, since attaching to case do. Much as he stated the two brothers Bharata and Shri loudly lamented in Kaushalya cloud bosom. She comforted Bharata in many ways. The act of setting fire to the throat was indeed innovated. Say, my plot of my providence award me the fate who forsaking feet of Sri Hari and Lord Shiva worshipping frightful ghost. If mother I have complicity in this job. If mother all this has my approval, let me share the terrible fate. Those who sell the Vedas, exploit their piety, are given to the backbiting, expose other sins, who are deceitful, wicked, quarrelsome, irascible, and revile the Vedas and hostile to the words. They who are greedy and lecherous and behave as the rapacious do. Rapacious do. Rapacious means rapacious. Rapacious do. Rapacious means aggressively greedy or grasping. And who cast their eyes on the other wells and other wives. Nay, mother, if I even knew these secrets, may Lord Shiva allot me the fate of those wretches who love not the company of the virtuous, who have rejected the path leading to God realization, who worship not Sri Hari, even though blessed with the human form, and take no delight in the glory of the Sri Hari and the Lord Shiva, who have abandoned the path of the Vedas and followed the contrary way, and who are impostors and deceive the world by assuming false appearance. Hearing Bharta's truthful, artless, and the sincere words, Mother Kaushalya said, "You, my dear child, has always been beloved Rama in thoughts, words, and deed. Rama is dear to you than your own life. Likewise, you are dear to the Lord of Raghu than this own life. The moon may refuse to ocean, throw her rays, and snow emits fires. Nay, an aquatic creature may shone water, and spiritual enlightenment may fail to eradicate errors. But in no case will you turn hostile to Rama. Those in this world who allege the plot was contrived with your connivency shall never attain happiness or salvation even in a dream." So saying, Mother Kaushalya clasped Bharta to her bosoms, milk begins to flow her breast, and her eyes filled with the tears. In this way, they squared away the whole night, lamenting in profusion. The sage Vamadeva and the Vishya came and summoned all the ministers and the elite of the city. Vashishta admonished Bharata in many ways, speaking to him words of wisdom appropriate to the occasions. "Have courage in your heart, dear son, and do what the occasion demands." Today, hearing the preceptor, Bharata rose and asked everything to got ready. He had the king's body washed in accordance with the Vedic rites and caused a most splendid funeral bier to be prepared to him. Clasping the feet of his mother, Bharata prevented them from ascending the funeral pile. They all stayed behind in the hope of the seeing Shri Rama. Their arrival made loads of the sandalwood and the aloes and the divers other excellent aromatic herbs of the untold varieties. The pyre was raised in an endless artistic way on the bank of the Saryu river and looked like a lovely ladder reaching to the heaven. In this way, all the rites of the ceremony were gone through, and then the funeral party bathed with due ceremony and offered a handful of water and sesame seeds to the departed soul. After asserting the views of all the Smriti texts, the Vedas, and the Purana performed around the ceremony of the Das Sagrata, whatever order the great sage Vashishta gave on particular point, Bharata carried out all of them in thousands ways. He bestowed all sorts of gifts of attaining purity. He gave away cows, horses, elephants, and conveyance of the various sort, and even so thrones, ornaments, and the costume, food, grain, lands, monies, and the houses, and the Bharata had all their desires fulfilled on receiving them. Receiving Brahmans had all their desire fulfilled on receiving them. Whatever right Bharata performed for the benefit of his fathers in the other worlds were more than 100,000 tongues could recount. Then, after determining the auspicious date, the great sage Vashishta came and summoned all the ministers as well as elite of the city. They all repaired to the council chambers and sat there. The two brothers Bharata and Shatrugna were also sent for. Vashishta seated Bharata by his side and spoke to him words full of the wisdom and piety. First of all, the great sage repeated the whole story of Kakai's Willy doing and paid his tribute to the vows of piety and the truthfulness of the king Dasharatha, who remained true to his love even at the cost of his life. And the great hermit spoke Shri Rama's virtue, amiability, and the kind disposition. Tears came to his eyes and the thrill ran to their body. Again, when he extolled the affection that Lakshmana and Sita bore towards Rama, the enlightened sage were overwhelmed with grief and the emotion. Listen, Bhartas, formidable is the Lord of Sakes, sorrowfully extreme loss and gain, life and death, glory and fame, all these life of the hands of the providence. Arguing thus, whom should we blame and with whom should we be angry without any cause? Ponder in your heart, my son, that the king Dasharatha is not worth grieving for. Pitiable is the Brahmans who is ignorant of the Vedas and who had abandoned his own duty and engrossed in the pleasure of the sense. Pitiable is the king who has no knowledge of the polity and who does not love his people as his own life. Pitiable is the Vaishya, the member of the trading class who is niggardly through rich and who is not perfect in niggardly who is not niggardly serving or rational with the niggarding hand, serving out rations with a regarding hand, so misery, penny pitching, regarding knowledge who is not perfect of authority nor in devotion to the Lord Shiva. Pitiable as a Shudra, a member of the laboring or teaching class who is disrespectful toward the Brahmins, luxurious and the proud of his knowledge and love to be honored. Pitiable again the woman who deceives her husband, the crooked and the quarrelsome and follow her own will. Pitiable the religious students who break his vows and obey not the order of his preceptor. Nay, pitiable is the household who out of the ignorance forsake the path of the duty, and pitiable is the recluse who is attended to the words and lack discretion and dissipation. Pitiable is the anchorite who has given penis and the developed a liking of the luxuries. Pitiable is the backbiter who is angry without cause and envy of his own parents, preceptor, and the brother. Pitiable is everyone is he whom harms others, cherishes his own body, and exceedingly heartless. And pitiable is every respect is he who is not sincerely devoted to Shri Hari. The Lord of Kaushala is no worth grieving for. His glory being manifest through all the 14 spheres, there never was, nor is, nor shall be there hereafter. You monarchs like your father, Bhartas, Brahmans, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Indra, the Lord of Celestials, and the guardian of the quarter, all sing praises of the King Dasharatha. Tell me, dear child, who can glorify, who begot such pious sons as Rama, Lakshmana, Shatrugna, and yourself? The king was blessed in every way. It is no use mourning for him, hearing and realizing this sorrow no more, and reverently obey the king's command. The king has bestowed the kingship on you. It behoves you, therefore, to redeem the words of your fathers, who abandoned Rama for the sake of the word and quitted the body in his anguish for separation of the Rama. The king did not love his own life as he did his word. Therefore, dear son, redeem your father's words, reverently obey the king's commands. This will do you good in every way. Parshurama executed the command of his father and killed the own mother. The whole world will be a testimony of this fact. Yayati's son Speru exchanged his own youth for the old age of his father, incurred no sins or the blame because he did so in evidence of his father's command. Those who cherish his father's words, minding not whether it is reasonable or otherwise, attain happiness and the fair renown and dwell in the abode of the Indra, the Lord of immortals. Therefore, you must redeem the king's word, cherish your subjects, and cease to grieve. The king is heaven will derive solace, while you will earn merits and the good fame, and shall incur no blame. It is well known in the Vedas and had the sanction of all that the crown goes to him on whom the father bestowed it. Therefore, rule the kingdom, feel no remorse, and accept my advice as salutary. Rama and the Vidya's daughter Sita will be gratified when they hear of it, and no wise man will call it wrong. Kaushalya and all the others mothers too will be happy in the happiness of the people. He who will know the supreme affinity between you and Rama will have perfect goodwill towards you. When Rama returns home, you may hand over the kingdom to him and serve him with an ideal affection. The minister submitted with joint palm. You must obey the order of your preceptor. When the Lord of Raghu come back, you may do what you think fit then. Summoning courage, Kaushalya said, salutary, my son, is your Guru's commands. The same should be respected and obeyed by you as a conductive to your good. Cease to grieve, realizing the vicissitude of the life. The Lord of Raghu is the Shri Ram. Horace in the king is the heaven, the word of the while you, my son, are thus giving way to the faint heartedness. You, my child, are the only support of all, including your family, subjects, ministers, and all your mothers, pursuing the antipathy of the gods and the relentless of the fate. I adjure you, my child, to have courage, reverently obey your Guru's commands, cherish your subjects, and relieve the affliction of your family. Bharata listened to the advice of preceptor and the minister's appeal, and endorsing the same which were as soothing of his heart as sandal paste. His father hear the mother's soft words, imbued with the nectar of amiability, affection, and bluelessness. Bharta grew restless when he heard Mother Kaushalya's speech, imbued as it was with the nectar of sincerity. His lotus eyes shed tears that watered the fresh shoots of the desolation of his heart. All those who saw his condition at this time forgot their own existence. Everyone says Tushtas reverently extolled him as the perfection of heartless love. Joining his lotus palm, Bharta, who was foremost among the strong-minded, took courage and proceeded to give befitting reply to all the words steeped as it were in nectar. Pause 18 for the 30 days recitation. Shri Ram, 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 Shri Ram.